Hi, everybody. Sherri Leopold here. And oh my goodness, I am so excited today for you to meet my guest, Greta Kay. Have you ever thought about how much you drink or the way that you drink by drinking alcohol or as adult beverages? My guest today has some thoughts she'd like to share with you on that in her journey. Greta, welcome to the Wow Warrior Show. We are so happy that you're here.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
We love interviewing powerful women, and you are definitely in that category. You've had quite the journey. Now, in the intro, I said we were going to talk a little bit about drinking and alcoholic beverages. And as we have different holidays and different family celebrations, it's often a huge part of social outings. And I want you to share, you have a whole backstory to what I mean, there's so much we're going to talk about, but I want you to share a little bit about your history with alcohol and how you got to where you are today.
Absolutely. So then I was growing up both with my parents. First, my dad, he was drinking all the time. So it's always would be dad would get drunk, they would get in a fight. So it's all fighting, drinking. Probably 5, 10 years into it, my mom got tired. She started drinking with my dad. So then there was me and my brother. I was trying to figure it out how this could happen. I was always scared. I was always terrified something's gonna happen to us or my mom was always gonna die. And it's just scary as a kid. As I grew up, I obviously moved out of my house and I was like, oh, I suffered so much. I started drinking there and here with the parties with my friends. And obviously I knew it's not gonna happen to me. Guess the way I grew up, I was always struggling, scared. I knew I'm never gonna be an alcoholic. Until probably like a year, 2, 5 years into it, I realized that all the weekends and all the holidays were planned for me. I was always drinking, and it turned into a couple days of drinking, and it would turn into being sick. And I realized that after a while, I didn't need friends to drink anymore. I would drink every day. I would go to work, come back, drink myself to sleep, and then get up and do it again and again until it turned. So I drank like this for 10, 15 years until it turned into bench drinking, which is I would drink for 2 weeks, a week, 2 weeks straight without any food or water. And then I would end up in a hospital. So just to give you an idea how bad it was, like 1 year I was in the hospital for 14 times and I was like, what, 34 years old. So that's when I was like, okay, this is obviously getting out of control. And I knew I had to stop because they told me I had already liver issues and I knew I had to stop. I just didn't know how. So I just couldn't.
Wow. And that is one never thinks, right? Like when we were talking about that social thing, you don't think about that lapsing into and the snowball rolling down the hill, right? And becoming this huge thing. And we just don't, I don't think you ever envisioned that you would be hospitalized from that, even with the family situation that you went through. They didn't have that issue. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the fact that you ended up in that situation, that it was even more of a problem for you than it was for them?
I think it's just, how strong your addiction is and how weak you are as a person. It's just that you're not strong. I think it can get you, and it's showing really how powerful. And I always say alcohol is evil's tool to do as much harm as you can. So it's just how strong, how weak you are and how strong the evil is and how fast they can just get you in that cycle. It's just a cycle that you can't get out of.
So now I know you at that point after being hospitalized 14 times. I'm curious, Greta, what were some of the things that were happening around you? Other people had to be seeing this. What was the response of those around you, of the people around you?
So honestly, then in the beginning of my journey, I would always get too drunk at the party. So I could see that friends were a little bit of embarrassed of me. So I honestly slowly took myself out of that social drinking and I would just drink by myself. As I say, behind closed doors, they don't know how bad it is. You just disappear. So all you do go to work, come home, drink yourself to sleep, and just guess how bad the next morning is going to be. So people don't see that anymore. They just know they're like, oh, I wonder where she is, but that's where I am. And obviously, my family, my daughter, she was little, so she saw all of that. So I had to deal with a lot of guilt afterwards. Was hard for me to even think of how guilty I felt. And that's what it is. Like the guilt is so strong that it just, then you want to drink even more to just numb it, not feel guilt and shame and all of that anymore.
And that was gonna be my question, and my next question is, like, what the alcohol represented, but I think maybe you answered it. It was like the numbing agent, right? It was to numb the pain, and it's not just the pain that you're having currently, right? It's a pattern of numbing the pain from even childhood. Uh,
Absolutely. And it's just not taking control. So what happens is that addiction takes control of you until you take control of the addiction, right? So I always say it can't cure yourself from addiction. That's why I say it can beat the addiction and you stay in control. But there's always very fine line where you can just go back. So once I figured out after the last time I drank, I knew it was the last time and I figured how this whole thing works was after I came back from one of the hospital stays and I couldn't sleep. So I kept having those visuals and I sat down and wrote it down, not knowing what it's going to be. Basically 9 years later, it became a book, but I knew I had to write them down. I knew I had figured it out because I constantly prayed every day. God, show me the way. I just didn't know the way out. And it's just that evil taking control of you. And it's just getting you through these cycles where you drink, don't try not to drink, then drink again. You always end up in the bottom at the worst. So it's just the kind of, you don't even know what's going on, honestly. You're like in this, you just out of control, I would say. And the alcohol controls your every move, every decision.
yeah, and I think people don't I think they lose sight of the fact that what you said is that they are no longer in control, it is controlling them. And that is a choice, and that's what I heard you saying is after that last hospital visit, you did make the choice to say, "This has to stop." And it's not a perfect story, and it rarely is. "I just stopped, I don't do that anymore." There are challenges, obviously, along the way, and there's a lot of emotions in that as well. People become accustomed to how you act, right? Over that length of time, they expect you to act and behave in certain ways as well. And as you change, sometimes that's a bumpy road as well. But I want to talk about the book because you said, what you wrote down eventually became a book. Let's talk about the book. When did you write that and how did that come about?
Yeah, so as I said, the last time it's in the middle of the night, I just took the computer, I wrote it down, I kind of forgot about it. So then, 5 years later, somebody mentioned they're like, "Oh, you should write a book," and I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about. It sounds cool, but I don't know." So then I started my own spiritual journey, and my spiritual coach, she kept telling me you have to write a book, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Then I started thinking about it. I'm like, where's my article that I think I wrote 8 years ago? I tried to find it and I couldn't. So then I just started writing it because I know in my heart, I know how hard it was for me. Now I understand why I had to go through this journey. So I'm able to help other people. So that's why I started getting up at 4 or 5 in the morning and just writing where it comes to my mind. And I knew the points and I'm like, oh, okay, I still have to do this. I still have to do this. Where at the end, it was like, okay, I think I got it all in there. So obviously, you can read about my journey in there and the steps so people understand. Because I think the most problem is people don't know. They know they have a problem. A lot of times they don't want to admit it. But a lot of times the problem is you don't know how to, because you don't understand what's happening. So my book is showing explaining what's happening. And honestly, unless you have an alcohol addiction, you cannot understand. You can't understand another person. And that's it's so hard for people around you. They just say, just stop. Just like with I could understand why my dad could have just stopped. I know he was an amazing person. I know he loved me so much, but he just always promised and then break that promise. And then I did the same thing to my daughter. And I'm like, I know I want to stop. I know I'm not never going to drink again. But then before like a month later, you're like, I'm at the same spot again. And then you feel guilty for things you don't even remember you did. So unless you actually yourself in that addiction, it's very hard for people around you to understand why you keep drinking. That's why in my book I explain, and there's a little section for people who are dealing with family members, husbands who are with them the addiction, so they can understand it. And it's also a little section for them, the things to not ever do. And if you choose to support somebody, it's a hard, like you said, it's a very,
Yes.
especially the beginning. There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of things people could be angry, could be
Yeah, it's challenging.
and it's
Emotions
scary.
are challenging, and you're gonna have those emotions come up around that as well. So, we've talked a little bit about the book. We're gonna talk about that when we come back from this quick message. The book is called The Circle of Wine, and we are going to talk about how the Circle of Wine book has come to be and actually how that's actually evolved into some other opportunities for you, Greta Kay. And when we come back from this message, we're going to find out all about those opportunities. We'll be right back. And we are back with Greta Kay. And I'm so excited. We were talking about your book, The Circle of Wine. First off, Greta, tell us why it's called The Circle of Wine.
So it's actually very interesting. As I said, that I was writing that article, the first thing that came up was a circle of wine. And I think the circle represents a cycle that you kept getting in. And in the book, it explains how to not to get back in that. I call it vicious cycle, but to me, it's a circle. It's the same thing happening again and again. It just depends on every person, how often and how bad that cycle or circle is. And wine, I think, because that was my favorite drink, aside drink. And then honestly, then I was looking for options to publish my book. Somebody told me that I shouldn't put wine in it because it's an alcoholic beverage and nobody's gonna like it. So I took it and started thinking about it. And I started thinking about all these other names I could name it. And I couldn't find another name. And then I was like, I'm just gonna go with my first thought. That's how I always wanted to name it. That article, that book, it's just that circle of wine. It's just the same thing all over. So that's how it came up. And now I'm glad I did it. I stuck
I
to
love
wine.
that. And you know what? I love that you stuck to your guns about wanting to name it what you wanted to name it. Like sometimes people want to tell us what's best for us. And this is really a very personal story for you. And so it should be named what you want it. When I heard the name of it, I have an internal chuckle because I always feel like there's probably a little imperceptible another circle that lays right on top that circle of WHINE wine. It's when you're whining or you feel like
Yeah.
you're whining, you might be going to WINE. Maybe that's just my strange sense of humor, but I think that that journey and being very open and transparent about the difficulties that you've gone through in this journey is just it's amazing. And I want to commend you for being powerful and strong enough. And thank you for sharing that journey because somebody out there watching, listening, reading the book, somebody needs to see that cycle and that circle can be broken and they can get out and that there is a way out and that there's actually a hand, right? Waiting to help them, which is what I really want to talk to you about next. I know you wrote the book to begin with, but you've actually been in development with some other things also. And one of those things, I do want to say that you wrote for Wow Warrior magazine, an amazing article in June of 24. And so I'm so excited about that. But you ask a lot of pertinent questions in there. And I'd like it if you would just share maybe one or two of the questions that maybe somebody needs to ask themselves to think about whether their drinking is actually a problem.
Yeah, so there's a lot of questions that I think, and I think deep down every person knows. It's just a matter of admitting it to themselves, right? So it's are you at work and you're thinking, okay, I'm gonna go home and have a glass of wine. Does that glass of wine turns into not one, but three or four? Are you stressful? When you're stressful, what do you do? Do you reach out for a drink? There's a lot of, if you read the article, you'll see self assessment. And I think deep down we know. And it's just, I think there's a lot of shame with people and they don't want to reach out. And that's why exactly I have different options for them. You can grab a book or you can do other options to actually find the way out. But I can tell you one thing, it's way easier because a lot of times people are afraid. You're like, okay, I'm never going to drink again. How's that going to be? It like a lot of changes, a lot of work. And as I say, not drinking is a lot easier than drinking. 'Cause then drinking, you have a whole new, it's like an extra job you're always doing, hiding your addiction, fighting all these urges, and then having health issues. It's a lot harder to actually drink than not drink.
Yeah, and people I think don't actually think that. And the other thing is when you're the one who's not drinking, I think there's some thought process for people that think you're the odd one out because you're not drinking. I have a friend that's been sober 5 years and she's very used to it now, but she was always the blackout drunk one. I don't remember what I did kind of thing. And fortunately, she's righted her own ship, but once again came to a decision that was right for her and her family as well. And I think though that's sometimes we need that catalyst, right? And that catalyst might be in this case the book, The Circle of Wine, right? Seeing that there is light at the end of the tunnel, seeing your journey, but if somebody needs more, which sometimes they do, sometimes they need a little bit of hand holding, you have some options. And I'm very excited about what you're creating for people. Can you share a little bit about it's still a very private thing, but you're creating this in a way that somebody can start to navigate and help themselves, but with your help. Can you share about a little bit about that, Greta?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think as we all are different, we have to have different options. And that's why I'm constantly working on putting the article, something that because this subject is so, let's say it's always a shame, right? You might have a very high position at work and you don't want anybody to know about your problem, about your addiction. So the book is easy, but some people don't like to read. So I have also audiobook you can listen to if you don't like reading. Then I'm also have a course that is private at your house. So you log in, nobody has to know about it, right? You just get the logins, you log in and you can listen to it's also based on a 5 steps, it's only 5 steps and it's easy. Again, it talks about my journey and it takes you step by step, explaining exactly how to understand, how to not fall back in that cycle. And I also offer once more, like any of these options, I also offer one-on-one coaching. That could be 6 week course and we go for each step and we talk and I have a lot of ways to help people.
Well,
That's
and I
my
love that
passion.
because it's not just one way,
Yeah.
but it's also a way that you're helping people to help themselves and doing it in a way that does respect the privacy of that person. They're able to navigate that journey. And then if for some reason they do the course and they're like, I need more, then they can reach out and talk to you about setting up possibly some one-on-one coaching. I just like that you have the book for those that wanna just say, "Maybe it's this me. I wanna understand her journey," or maybe you just wanna be inspired because that's definitely gonna happen within reading the book. But then you also have how they can connect with you and, get that coursework, if you will,
Yeah.
and walk in step with you, just as you did. Follow that same steps that you did. Now, I know just because I know you, I know that your faith was an important part to you. What do you think that how has that made a difference for you in your journey, Greta?
I think it was always I was always praying to God, asking for and now I understand why I had to go through this. It's to help other people. But now the faith is something that just confirms why I'm doing this. And for me, it's also in a book. It's God and evil. That's two parts. And then which part you want to be on. And obviously I want to be as far away from all that evil stuff as possible and just stay on the side of faith. Because then all the good things happen to you. And as I say, once you stop drinking, once you make that decision, all the things are just going to start happening in a positive way. And once I saw and I see like a lot of people look at me now, they're like, there's no way you ever were there. And I'm like, they're like, you speak about it in so open way. And I'm like, because I have nothing to be ashamed of now. I was ashamed then every day. Right now, my mission is I just want to help people. I want them to just feel a little bit of what I'm feeling right now in comparison to because I know how they feel. And because I did it, because I went through it, I know both sides. So
Isn't it a fascinating thing that you have no shame around sharing your story, but actually being in the alcohol fog and being in there, that was shameful. It's so interesting. You would think that when things happen to you, like logic says, if that happened to you, then I should feel bad. But the interesting thing is it's really the opposite. It's like coming through the fire, and it's not that you maybe didn't get burned, it's this that you're proud of the fact that you went through it and got through it, and now you get to show people how to walk through that. And I think the faith obviously is a huge benefit. Not that it has to be required, I guess. Maybe some people don't have it, but I do know that for people that do have a strong faith, navigating those things is easier. So I do want to point out that you can connect with Greta at gretaKbooks@gmail.com. You can get her book on, I believe, on Amazon, correct?
yes,
And also it's on or is it where is it?
Audible, like audiobook, it's on
On
it's
Audible. Yeah.
everywhere. Barnes and Nobles, any platform you can look. Just look for Circle of Wine and it's gonna come up. That's the only book that has that name. So
Nice.
somebody then told me like it was a good choice because you can mix it up.
Yes, nice. You can grab the book Circle of Wine at Amazon or wherever you buy your books, get your books. You can connect with Greta at gretakbooks@gmail.com. And we're also gonna put her link tree up on there. And if it's link tree has that weird thing with the period between the
Yes.
TR and the EE, but it's / Greta Kay, which is KAY. We would love to have you connect with Greta. Greta, would you like to share some final words with our viewers?
I would just say just always have faith and don't stop believing that there's a light at the end of a tunnel and there's a way out. And you can do it and it's way easier than you think. And the sooner you make a decision, the sooner you're gonna enjoy the benefits and actually life that you deserve.
I love that. And it's so beautiful to see a smile on your face. And it's been a joy getting to know you, Greta. You absolutely embody what a wow warrior is, a woman of worth warrior, one who stands up and who is always in the understanding that you are here to inspire other women and to let them know they can do it too because you've done it. And so I salute you as a WOW warrior, and it's wonderful to have you as part of our WOW warrior community, as a contributor to the magazine, and now a guest on the show. So thankful for you, Greta Kay. I hope people will connect with you and be inspired by you as I am.
Thank you so much.